I'm just wondering, is all talented passed down, inherited from one generation to another? Or is this somebody just sort of talented all on their own, never before seen in the family? Good question, right? Welcome to Small Talk.
Any and all are welcome here to come and chat with me.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. Today is going to be a really good show. My guest today is, well, among other things, she's an artist and a photographer, a published author, a wife, a mother, a business owner, and the list goes on. It's time to meet this person, right? Heather McAlendin-Kendall. Sorry, Heather, I knew I was going to.
That's okay. That's fine. Heather is good.
Okay, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's wonderful to be here.
For me too. Now I know you're in Ontario, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
So, and for me, one of the challenges sometimes when I'm booking this show is to check the time zones, you know?
Yes. Yeah. No kidding. Yeah.
So now I know you talked about in your bio that you sent, which was really great, by the way. There's lots of great information.
Thank you.
You said your grandfather was a pianist?
He was. Yeah. He was actually, he was a gold miner in Timmins, Ontario, but his passion was music.
Right.
And he played jazz piano. There was a nickname for him up there with not too many people still alive up there that know him, because he would have been well over 100 by this time. But they called him Shaky McAlendin because of how quickly his fingers would move on the piano.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I was always surrounded with music. It was wonderful.
Very good. And also you have, was it your aunt who is artistic? Yes,
my grandmother's sister, my great aunt Mary. She's passed, but she did oil paintings. That's how she made her living, actually. She was an artist, and she was from a very young age.
Right.
So I guess I come by it honestly that way.
Now, one of the things you mentioned is you had a few different careers going through your life, which a lot of people do. It's not unusual, right?
Yeah.
But some of the things you've done, let's see now, where did I find that? You were administrative assistant.
Yes.
English tutor, legal secretary.
Mm-hmm.
But you said you always came back to that creative outlet of yours, right?
Always. From the time I was really young, I was always drawing something or taking pictures of something or making up poems. When I was in high school, I was part of the theater arts and dramatic arts program. It's something that for me, I've always fallen back to, and it was mostly just as a hobby to start out with. My aunt that I was speaking of earlier and I used to correspond quite often. She lived in Peterborough, Ontario. And when I was quite young, we would send letters back and forth to each other. And I would send her little sketches and cartoon drawings and things like that. And she would do the same for me. And we would send poetry back and forth to each other. And so it's always been an outlet for me. It's only been, though, in the last few years that it's really taken off in terms of, I guess, a hobby turned into a career. Well, I shouldn't really say that, because I started off my career out of college as a graphic designer. And I was a graphic designer for 10 years. And then got married and had my son. And after I had my son, went back to school again. And that's when I got my diploma in business and office administration, and then did various jobs from that point, working in an administrative capacity.
Right. So, and also, like, talk about your published, you said you're a published author. What's your work?
I'm not so much anymore. I was quite prolific about 10 or 15 years ago. Writing is something that I've always used as a stress reliever or an outlet for myself. So I did write some full-length manuscripts, and I was quite lucky, I guess is the word, to be published by a local publishing company here in Toronto. Unfortunately, they've since closed, and that work has been returned to me. But I wrote some, I guess they would call it supernatural thriller type work, and also got into erotic fiction as well.
Okay.
Um,
But two different locations.
Yeah, I don't do so much of that anymore, unfortunately. There's been a lot of things over the years that have affected what I do and how I do things,
Okay.
physically and otherwise. So I've had to kind of change my focus a bit on what I do in terms of a career. Currently, my husband and I own a residential painting company. He's been in construction and painting for well over 30 years. So we decided about 7 or 8 years ago to start our own business. And I left my employment at that time. I was working for a chiropractor in an administrative capacity. And then started up the painting company, and I had to learn everything from scratch. So I can do drywall now. I can install flooring. I can paint walls. All that kind of stuff, which I thought was a big deal because I was into my 40s at that time, right? So
good for you.
Yeah.
I want to talk more about your painting, your artwork.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah. So do you have a style, or do you do different styles?
Currently I work mostly with pen and ink. I do some marker renderings. I've just started getting into some watercolor. I'm not particularly good at that, but it's fun for me. I like to try a little bit of everything just to see where it goes and to kind of broaden my horizons a little bit. I prefer pen and ink, though. I do a lot of pointillism, which is basically drawing with dots.
Okay.
So the majority of the work that I do right now, which seems to be moving towards doing portraiture of animals, nature, that sort of thing. I started off a little bit more in illustration, doing book illustration. So fairy tale type things, little fairy cottages and mushrooms and things of that nature, which I still do just for fun.
Do you have any examples that you can show us?
Not with me. If
my fault.
If I can, no, that's okay. I was going to say if I can be, I don't know if you'd be able to see any on my phone at all, but I do have a website. It's
okay. Well, I'll put that up so that people
that people can go to, and I have a Facebook page as well. That's a whole other ball game, but
okay. Just so that other people can see your
yeah.
work. So that's one of what I like about doing interviews with artists.
Yes.
You can get either go see their work in person or whatever form it takes. And I love other people to see.
Yeah, I do have both photography and illustration samples on my website as well.
Okay.
Photography I've been doing for many, many years.
So what do you usually take pictures of?
I like nature photography, but I don't necessarily go for mainstream. I try and take pictures of things that are a little bit different or a little bit off the beaten path. So I love shape. I love shadows. I like doing macro photography, which is getting very up close and personal with your subject matter. So it could be anything from as simple as a flower to a piece of jewelry to just taking a walk out in nature. And I'm fascinated with the patterns on trees and driftwood and things of that nature. So I love taking photos of that sort of thing. And Toronto is surrounded with some lovely conservation and park areas where I can go first thing in the morning and be there for hours, just walking around and doing my thing and snapping pictures. Some of them turn out, some of them don't, but I'll take a walk down to an area here in Toronto called Kensington Market.
Yeah, I know it.
Where they have some fantastic artists that do mural drawings and paintings. And I love taking photographs of just the creativity and the people down in that area as well. They're very open to artists and creative people like myself. So it's anything that's a little bit different and odd, because I myself am a little different and odd.
I like that.
seems to attract me that way.
I've been told I'm quirky, so I get it. Okay, I love that. So if you can describe it, if you can, what does, whether you're doing your photography or your artwork, what does that do for you, like inside?
It started out as a form of therapy for me. To be honest with you, I do live daily with mental illness.
Right.
So it's began as sort of a therapeutic way for me to express myself. I do have what they call generalized anxiety disorder.
Okay.
I also suffer from depression and what they call complex PTSD.
Oh, all right.
And it stems from trauma as a child and as an adult as well. So through artwork and photography, especially when I'm outside in nature, it's very calming for me. I'm able to focus. I'm not a extroverted type person, so I keep mostly to myself. I'm very quiet and kind of introspective. So it gives me a way to express what's going on in the inside sometimes.
Yeah.
And maybe not even necessarily that. There are some days where I just need peace and quiet and to be able to focus. So just sit at my art desk for a few hours and just draw or sketch or paint. It gives me a huge sense of relief. It's quieting for me. It quiets my brain. It quiets the trauma that goes on. There's no nervous system reactions going on. You know, I turn off everything. I turn off news. I turn off media, all that sort of thing. And just, it's like a lot of artists, I think. It's a way to vent. It's a way to calm. It offers so many things. And people seem to think that you need to go to art school or you need to be, you know, go to the Royal Ontario Museum every day or what have you. And you don't. It's the simplest thing. Is for me, I can sit down with some crayons with my grandchildren and color in coloring books. And that's artistic expression for me too,
Nice.
You know, so it's nothing specific or financially driven in that way. It's very personal. But it's also very helpful for me too. And it's something I use as a tool in my toolbox to be able to help me get through the day, basically.
Would you say it's someplace where you can get lost, in a sense, like in a good way? I don't mean.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. It's like getting into a good book. You know, you sit and you read and you get, and I'm an avid reader, and you just kind of get lost and carried away in the story, like some people do with TV or movies, that sort of thing. I'm not a huge TV person. So for me, it's always been about words. It's always been about, color and that sort of thing. Right now, I think it's not so much about color. It's just about details.
Right. Okay.
Details for me help me to focus. So I'm very detail oriented in my artwork. If you get a chance to take a look at it, or anybody out there is interested in going to the website to see, a lot of the stuff is very minute little. I'm not about realism, but I'm a lot about shadow and light. And my photography is specifically what I call natural light photography. So I don't use any LED lighting. I don't use any flash. I don't use anything like that, because it's about nature. It's about being natural for me, but taking a look at the natural and maybe seeing something that somebody else may not, and being able to bring that to the person's attention.
Right.
And I apologize if I'm rambling. I'm
No.
extremely nervous, and I have a tendency to just to do that when I'm nervous as well.
It's not rambling. To me, it's explaining where it comes from. That's what I'm listening to. That's what I'm
okay.
Right?
Thank you.
Not everybody gets it. You know, if you're not that type of person, you don't get it. Right?
No, and you don't have to, because art, like writing, like anything else, is very subjective. So it's four people can look at a photograph or a drawing or a painting and see four completely different things.
Yes.
And that's the fascinating part of it for me too, is because I can draw something and I may look at it and go, oh my God, what did I draw? That was terrible. And somebody else will look at it and go, that's fantastic. It's, you know, I drew a horse for the very first time about a month ago. And I have never been particularly good at capturing the essence of an animal that way. And it just off the top of my head, I told my husband, I'm going to buy a humongous sketch pad and I just have it in my head to draw this horse. And I wasn't too pleased with it, but everybody has seen it, sees something different, whether it's movement and that's fantastic for me. If I can get one person to take a look at it and go, you know what, that's great or not,
right.
You know, open a dialogue about something, and I try and bring the mental health aspect of it into it as well, because a lot of people are very uncomfortable to discuss that subject.
Which is on.
So I'm very open about it, in terms of, you know, being an advocate for people like myself that have mental health issues that they're dealing with. And I'm 52 years old, and I had to be real in the last few years that I cannot hold down a regular 9-to-5 job because of what I deal with on a daily basis. I had to step away from the business that my husband and I own in terms of being active in it from a physical perspective. So I still do paperwork and that sort of thing, but I don't work on the job sites anymore. It's physically and mentally not a good place for me to be.
Right.
So my artwork has just kind of evolved from being a little bit of a hobby to people have been interested in commissioning some work from me, which has been fantastic. It's been, you know, and it's, to be honest, it's a great confidence booster to know people like what you do and, you know, are interested. You know, I mean, you always have to be honest about that. Positive comments and, you know, a little bit of praise about something is all why we do things, right? You want to feel good, and to know that someone else feels good too is fantastic for me. It makes it all worthwhile. You know,
I can relate in the sense that I do this.
Yeah.
And if I can, you know, promote you or whatever, that makes me feel good. It's a win-win. And I have social anxiety. So, you know, and I just talk with my sisters too. We come from trauma, but we didn't recognize those terms. We didn't even use those terms at one time, right?
Yeah.
So I think talking about them is the way of moving forward for a lot of people.
Definitely. And I find art is a great way to express that. It opens up the conversation, because someone will ask, why did you draw that? Or why did you take a picture of that? And I'll explain my side of it, my perspective. And if somebody else draws something different from that, that's fantastic. But it, like I said, it opens a dialogue, and you find out there's a lot more people around you that have difficulty with certain things going on in their life than you may realize, you know, and it's nice to know that there's somebody else out there that they can talk to or express themselves without being judged.
Exactly. And you would never have known had the subject not come up before.
That's right.
Time.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. One of the things I enjoy talking to about artists is because I'm always intrigued by what you have in here and what comes out on paper. Like, that just fascinates me, you know.
Sometimes it's two different things.
I imagine.
You have an idea in your head and it won't necessarily come out the way you would like it to,
right.
But it may lead to something completely different. Or it may lead you to something that you never thought of in the first place. And it was like writing for me as well. It may lead you in a completely different direction, which kind of opens up possibilities as well, you know? So you don't have to be static. You don't have to be stuck in one idea, because the whole idea is to translate a message, yes, but you have to be open enough to know when an idea is working and not, and when I'm trying to think of the right word to describe it, and I apologize.
No worries. Would you say it takes on a life of its own sometimes?
Sometimes, yes, like a character in a novel. Sometimes, or you're cooking something and you decide to add in a different ingredient just to see what happens. And it's like that type of analogy. It'll take on a life of its own, and sometimes it's better than what you expected, and sometimes it's not. But that's okay, and that's what I've had to learn. It's okay that things don't always turn out the way you would like them to, because it may lead you to something better or different.
Right. Sometimes the success is a happy accident, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Very true. If I had gone completely off social media for quite some time, and just recently got back to it and created my first Facebook page where you and I first connected.
Yes.
So there's the universe has a way of kind of
putting things,
not necessarily giving you what you want, but there's opportunities there, and you have to know whether or not you're going to be brave enough to hang on to it. And to be honest with you, I was petrified of last night. I was almost sick to my stomach to come.
Well, I can relate to that.
And I had a discussion with my husband, and he was like, well, you have to be honest with yourself then. If you don't think you can go through with it, then you have to be honest and let her know. But, it may be a good opportunity to just to be able to talk, because I'm normally not a talkative individual either. So, but thank you for the safety of the space to be able to do that.
I tell people it's taped, and if you don't like it, I don't have to air it. It's so simple.
That's true. Yeah. I forget that it's not live necessarily. So
and here's something I did recently. Like I was invited to an appreciation for volunteers, like a supper to say thank you to volunteers. And I said, I can't go. Like I can't go, but unless you give me a job to do while I'm there. You can say thank you, but give me a task.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying. I get it. And the minute, like I can say something today and then start worrying about it. And when the day comes, I'm looking for reasons not to do it.
That's right. That's right. Or you get, like with me, I get so caught up in what are they going to think, or what are they not going to think? Or if I say this, am I going to get criticized? But if I don't say it, then I'm going to feel bad. And then you feel it's your brain goes all the time. So artwork and photography for me has a way of kind of slowing it down a little bit and just trying to remain in the moment, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And just kind of expressing whatever it is that comes out in that moment.
Right.
Instead of always scheduling everything and everything has to be this way or that way, or, which I've had to kind of learn to let go of over the last little while. And that's been extremely difficult as a woman and a business owner and a mother. And you're taught that you should always be busy and serving other people, and you forget about yourself sometimes,
For sure. And that's that can be a dangerous thing. I know.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I've had to have very uncomfortable conversations with my husband about feeling guilty because I'm not on the job anymore. So I'm not helping him. And he's my rock. I thank God for him every day. But he says to me, you know what, if you're not home doing what you do, then I can't do what I do at work. So if I'm not organizing the quotes and the paperwork and the bookkeeping, and he can't keep his mind on what he needs to do when he's on job sites. And I forget about that sometimes because you get so caught up in doing the physical part of it, for me anyway, because it was a very physical job, that thinking, oh, I'm just a housewife now, or you're just, at home, or it's not just anything. We forget that sometimes what we do, especially when you're in business with someone, it's the little things that may be the most important thing,
Absolutely. Now let's end this on a little bit of fun, because I want to talk about your erotic fantasy writing.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Let's have a couple of laughs here, because
Sure. Yeah.
a really great. I enjoyed this conversation a lot, because there's a lot I can.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that. But yeah, just tell me a little bit about what happened that you went there for that novel.
Okay, let me see here. First time I was published, I was 37, 38 years old.
Okay.
And thought, you know what, I've always wanted to write a book, and I've always written little stories and things of that nature creatively. So I thought, you know what, I don't know how to put this. Sex is an extension of who we are.
Sure.
As women, as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part of your life, whether you're a single person, you're with a partner, what have you, right? It's a natural extension of where relationships go.
Right.
So for me, writing about it, I don't know how to put this. I come from a very Catholic background. Okay. Irish Catholic family.
Right.
To the point where I was educated in Catholic school and the whole 9 yards, went to church 5-6 days a week, twice on Sunday. I'm old enough to have gone to Latin Mass with my grandparents, still up north. So a lot of it was, I had come out of a bad relationship and was in a new marriage at that point.
Okay.
And it was an exploration for me personally. It was an exploration of the messages that you're always taught in a religious upbringing, even as women, that you're not supposed to enjoy sexuality, you're not supposed to experiment with it, you're not supposed to, it's the devil on one side and the angel on the other, constantly nattering at each other.
Right.
So I thought, well, writing is going to bring out some things that I may have thought about but never engaged in, or that sort of thing, right? You read romance novels, you read all these things, and the bustier bursting covers and this and that and the other thing, and I thought, you know what, if other women can do this, I'll just give it a try, right?
Yeah.
One thing led to another, and I ended up meeting a publisher here in Toronto who did erotic publishing extensively.
Okay.
And I can't say that my writing is particularly excellent or fantastic. But I always worked in very strong female characters, which for me was very important, whether I was writing anything in terms of a thriller or a mystery type story or what have you. And to be quite honest with you, erotica at that point was becoming, because of certain novels and certain mainstream movies that came into the foray at that time, erotica was becoming something that was very popular. It was a good money maker, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I did, and one thing led to another, and ended up publishing a bunch of short stories and 2 or 3 erotic novels with this particular publishing company, and they did okay.
Right.
It led to a few other things in terms of self-publishing and that kind of stuff. I also learned that I had a lot to learn about erotica, because what you think it's all about, and when you actually start writing about it, is 2 completely different things.
Okay.
So I had to learn a lot of language and terminology, and it's very interesting when you have to find 400 different ways to describe lovemaking. It's not just one word or one situation.
Yeah.
So it was fun for me.
Sounds like an adventure.
It was definitely. I ran into a lot of wonderful people who were in different aspects of different lifestyles, and genders and in terms of their, sexual partners and things. Like, it opened up a whole new world, not just in terms of writing, but just meeting and talking to people in the industry and who engaged in alternative lifestyles and things of that nature, and just having a dialogue. And for somebody like me, who's very quiet and for the most part, and came from a very strict background at that point, you wouldn't know it. I'm full of tattoos now and what have you. But it was like, wow, there were other people out there who are interested in different things, and they're not as far out as you think. They're somebody's grandmother, they're a doctor, they're a housewife, they're a business owner, they're a college student, and when you start talking to people, it becomes less about the art, it becomes less about the sex, it becomes less about that, but in just a discourse with other human beings,
Right.
which opens up a whole new world. It's fascinating. I love learning.
Yes.
So I've been to school more times than I can count for different things. I mean, I'm a qualified English as a second language teacher. I have a degree in interior design.
Oh,
I'm just recently finishing a certification in different types of photography. Like, it's I'm like a sponge that way. I need to learn,
yeah. This is awesome. This is awesome.
And I'm rambling again. I apologize.
This is the way I look at interviews. If I'm doing most of the talking, this is not a good interview. That's the way I see it. Okay. It's about people finding out about you, me finding out about you.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate it. And we're out of time.
Okay.
It has been so fantastic, though. I've really enjoyed this. And to the audience, I hope you enjoyed hearing Heather as much as I did. I just find it all from beginning to end so fantastic and so informative, and a delight talking to you. Really.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And I appreciate being given the space and the opportunity to be able to just kind of ramble. I don't get to do that very often, so thank you.
I'm glad you got to do it with me. That's great. And thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you share and subscribe and all those wonderful things, and take care and peace out, everyone.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's a place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's a place to be, you'll see.